Hey everybody, Tom here, and welcome to the very first video in a brand new series where I will be taking a look at every single video game based on the anime Bleach ever released. And I'm going to rank them from worst to best. To give credit where it's due, this series is very inspired by Globku's Naruto series, so give him some love because he did pretty much the exact same thing I'm going to, but for Naruto. If you want to watch some good anime content, follow, sub, whatever you gotta do to Globku. Guy's a beast. Let's get right into it though. So in today's video of the Bleach ranking, we are going to be checking out every single one of the Bleach Heat the Soul games. All 7 of them. All of these games are on PSP, were never localized here in the United States, and I guess anywhere else. Yeah, they're probably the most well-known Bleach games that we never got, so we're going to start with those. Let's get right to it, man, with Bleach Heat the Soul 1. Bleach Heat the Soul is a fighting game developed by Aiding, a name that might be familiar to you if you know your fighting games. They're responsible for some of the best fighting games of the PS3, Wii, 360 era, such as Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom. Currently, they're making DNF Duel with Arc System Works. This is a dev that oozes fighting game expertise, so I actually have pretty high hopes for these games. Heat the Soul 1 is a fairly traditional Tekken, Soul Calibur style 3D fighter. It's actually a very simple game. X does a light attack, circle does a heavy attack, square plus either X or circle will do a super, and triangle jumps. The shoulder buttons do absolutely nothing at this point in the series. From there, each character has a fairly lengthy command list showing off the combos you can do. Anybody familiar with Tekken will be very familiar with this type of command list. The way that I basically approach this, I learned a few basic combos with Ichigo and jumped right into the story. The story suffers from the main issue that many anime games, especially first attempts at anime games, suffer from. You know the type I'm talking about. It's a still image of a character with a text box explaining what's happening. I'll give it one thing, at least it's voiced, but I do not speak Japanese, so having no visual spectacle or anything is very underwhelming. Not to mention that the story only goes up to the very first fight with Renji and ends really abruptly. Considering where in the story this game takes place, that brings us to our next problem. Characters. Bleach Heat the Soul, the first one, only has 6 playable characters: Ichigo, Rukia, Orihime, Oryu, Sado, and Renji. That's it, that's all. Some games launch or first versions have small rosters, sure, but this has gotta be one of the smallest rosters I've ever seen in a fighting game. It also has this massive issue where there is no such thing as meter in this game. You're free to use super attacks as much as you want, the only real penalty being if you miss, Ichigo gets tired and you're wide open to attack. But unlimited meter is stupid fun if you just want to steamroll the competition, but just dominating with no challenge at all is really not fun. As far as the ranking for the original Bleach Heat the Soul, it's a C rank. It's the granddaddy and starting point of the series, and it could have been a lot worse. It's bare bones as hell, but at the very least it is fun to play, which is really all that I can ask for. Moving on to Bleach Heat the Soul 2. We're greeted with a new opening using anime scenes, sure, but I do not recognize this song, so this may be a game original. I didn't fact check that though, so don't quote me. Either way, it's nice. 2 focuses on the Soul Society arc, picking up exactly where the previous game left off, with the exact same unfortunate style of storytelling, once again with the still images and text boxes. There are more playable characters this time at least, with 10 unlocked right off the bat, and Yoruichi hidden behind some absurd completion rewards. The gameplay is near identical to the first, right down to the issue of being able to spam supers endlessly. It does feel a little bit faster, but this may be because I've gotten a better grasp on the controls than before. The only real new issue I have with the story that wasn't there before is that it takes us all the way up to the Byakuya fight, and we can beat him easily with no Bankai? Like really, that is like the hypest fight in Bleach. So it's such a missed opportunity to at least not end on a hype moment like that, right? Ultimately, there's not much more to talk about with 2. It's the same game as the first one with some more content. The roster is barely any bigger with only 5 new characters. It, literally speaking, is a better game than the first, sure, but I can't put it any higher in the ranking. It's going right there in C with the first, but below the first because the previous game was at least the first in the series. This has no excuse. Bleach Heat the Soul 3 was probably the most surprising one yet. It lacks a lot of the presentation flair of the first 2 games, no opening cutscene, no cool character select, hell the story mode's even gone now, replaced by this strange board game. I remember one of the Budokai games did something similar, so it might be trying to do what that did, I'm really not sure, but one thing I will give it, this new story mode gives a lot more content than previously, with way more battles and reasons to play than there previously were. In fact, content is the name of the game with this one. Remember how we had 10 characters in the previous game? Well, now we have 34. This is a massive amount of new new characters and the single largest amount of new content in any one of these games. With this larger number of characters, we also have access to assists depending on the mode. These can range from allowing you to teleport to Ichigo sending out a Getsuga from a distance. They can even allow you to do the equivalent of like a Roman cancel, canceling your attack, allowing for much more combo ability. This adds a ton of depth to the game. Not to mention, while many of the characters are transformations or second forms of other characters, their movesets are all unique and different enough that I would qualify them as new characters. Think like Super Saiyan Goku and Ultra Instinct Goku in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Completely different characters who just happen to literally be the same guy. What the f was that? Huh. As a complete package, the amount of new content here cannot be overlooked. Heat the Soul 3 feels like what the first game should have been content-wise. It has an absolute ton of single-player content. The gameplay feels faster, tighter. The assists add some much-needed depth to the simple gameplay of the first two. This is easily the best in the series so far, and I'm going to throw Heat the Soul 3 in B tier on the ranking. The best in the series easily so far, and that makes me very hopeful for future iterations of the series, adding even more content of consistently good quality like this. Bleach Heat the Soul 4 is an interesting beast. Spoiler alert, yes, I am emulating these games, and for some reason Heat the Soul 4 has an unlocked frame rate. So I'm running this game at like 144 Hz, which makes it look unbelievably good. But that aside, polish is the name of the game with Heat the Soul 4. We've got 51 characters now, but it does also have the issue of almost none of them being unlocked from the start. I get it, it's a portable game, it's going to be played mostly single player, so unlockable content is a good thing, but personally, I just wish these characters were unlocked from the start. There is once again no story mode to speak of, replaced with this character master mode, which is basically an arcade mode with caveats, like for example, win with this move, or don't take a certain amount of damage, things like that. However, since I can't read Japanese, I had no chance here. As for gameplay changes, they finally made the most important change. There's an actual super meter now. Finally, no more spamming supers. There's now 2 assists available instead of 1, adding even more customization and depth. The game as a whole feels so much faster and smoother, and most importantly, more fun. I feel like 4 had the least amount of changes from previous games, and the lack of any sort of story mode sucks, but the improvements in game feel are too good to overlook. As far as a game, objectively, it is the best in the series. All steps forward, 0 steps back. It is now the top in B tier. Now, Heat the Soul 5 is an interesting beast. It takes a few steps forward, but also makes a few mistakes along the way. First of all, the return of a story mode is welcome. This time, it's a straightforward linear story, not based on character, but based on the actual events of the series. They also did some improvements to the presentation, with little voice-acted in-game cutscenes right before battles now during the story. It's not much, but it is something. This one starts off right after Ichigo and Grimmjow fight for the first time, which is a bit annoying because the previous games never got that far, but whatever, right? One thing I like about this improved story mode is that they tried to make fights unique. For example, the first fight is a tag match, the second one's a double HP Grimmjow. It makes it different than just a standard like CPU free match. Things to separate story mode from basic gameplay are always appreciated and give me a reason to actually want to play the story mode outside of just doing what I want to in versus mode. Because as you know, like the annoying part about most anime games is the story mode is just these still images, text boxes, and then just regular one-on-one fight just like you could do in any versus mode. I personally do like it when story modes are a little different than just that. Like, at least make the fights feel a little different than the standard versus match. That's all I ask. Regardless, speaking of tag battles, this is the game that introduced tag battles to the series, which would eventually become a mainstay, and one of the more fun ways to play. They follow Tekken tag rules, where if one character dies, the match is over, so switching at the right time is key. The other big addition is mid-match transformations. This is only doable in 1 versus 1 matches though, since the transformation buttons are the shoulder buttons, which are used to call assists in tag mode. Mid-match transformations are the one misstep I would really say in this game. While cool to do and makes sense for it being a Bleach game where everybody has at least one transformation, it essentially almost just feels like you're tagging into another character because it's not a buff. It literally just changes you into the other character. For example, going from Shikai to Bankai Ichigo just changes you into the Bankai character, who is an objectively worse character as far as the moveset is concerned, with no real benefit other than just becoming that character at the cost of 5 meters. years. The other thing that I really didn't like was the removal of each character's second super. There's no real reason for it. Every character's second super is now part of a tag super that can't be used otherwise. This makes Bankai Ichigo particularly bad because his super puts on his mask, which buffs all his stats, sure, only then unlocking his standard super after the fact. The main character should be the simplest character, not requiring these extra steps just to do his cool looking basic move. Like, some of these ideas sound cool on paper, but it just didn't land for me, you know? I feel like 5 had some great ideas, some it executed well and others it dropped the ball. As of now, it has the best and most single player content so far, which can keep a fan playing for days, but it also has a few issues that really hold it back. I'm gonna put this one in the high C tier. Above Heat the Soul 1, it didn't have the substantial leap of 3 and it doesn't have the polish of 4, which in my opinion is still the best playing game in the series so far. Now moving on to Heat the Soul 6, which is one I actually played a ton of back in high school when it was new. We're greeted with this dope, brand new animated intro with a whole new song that is kind of a bop. Easily the best intro so far. It gives me a lot of hope that the rest of the game following also has that extra bit of effort put in. And honestly, I'm not disappointed. Heat the Soul 6 backpedals on the bad ideas of 5. Transformations are gone, which I know disappoints some people, but I'm happy to see them go. We're back to having 2 supers available per character, along with the 1 combo attack, which allows you to essentially mash out a combo with sometimes hilarious results like here with Rukia. But they also kept the good changes like the tag mode being back, and it is as good as it was. Plus the story mode easily being the best in the series now. It's once again a straight linear story, but with significantly better presentation. It goes back to the beginning of the story, starting with the Renji fight. There's actual cutscenes now. This is much simpler than previous games were trying to do, but infinitely more effective. There's a ton to play here that can keep players busy for a long time, not to mention an actual traditional arcade mode on the main menu. Hallelujah. The last thing I want to talk about are the new characters. So Heat the Soul 6 did something I appreciate and started including movie characters like Senna and Dark Rukia from the movies, playable with fully unique movesets and everything. There's not as many new characters this time, like there's mainly just new costumes for existing characters, but this once again improves the game feel, has a great single player story, and fixes a few of the issues 5 had to place this game in A tier as the first game in A tier. And of course, Bleach Heat the Soul 7, a game that I already know is the best Bleach game ever made, but why is that the case? Is it because it's the newest and has the biggest roster, making it the obvious choice? Is it the even faster, more refined gameplay? Is it the best story mode in the series with full cutscenes, multiple alternate stories, and a ton of single player content? Is it the fact that full Hollow Ichigo is playable despite being the stiffest character in the game with some of these weird ass animations? All of this and more, yes. 7 is the one that I've played the most, simply for fun. This is a game I enjoyed when it was new and still do to this day on every revisit. There's a near complete English patch for this game that's easily accessible. Hell, there's even a thriving competitive community that still plays this game to this day. Its 1v1 fights are basically hyperspeed Soul Calibur, while its 2v2s feel like Tekken Tag on crack. There's 7 games worth of character diversity here, with the most massive roster of any Bleach game ever made, topping off at 84 characters that are all completely unique. This game took everything that worked in the previous installments, removes anything that didn't, and refined it to be a game that feels like they knew it was the last one. So they threw everything at it to make it as good as possible. Playing this game for this video genuinely made me want to look more into the competitive scene to see what high-level Bleach Heat the Soul 7 gameplay actually looks like. I know there's less for me to say about 7 because it is ultimately the culmination of the entire series, but if you want to play the game with the best gameplay, the most characters, the best story mode, solid multiplayer, solid mechanics, this is the one to check out. Bleach Heat the Soul 7 is the first and likely only S-rank game on this list. If the 1000-Year Blood War ever gets a new game, I can only dream they let 80 make Heat the Soul 6 on modern consoles with ArcSys styled graphics. That would be amazing. And now to show the list as it stands one more time. So in C tier, we've got Heat the Soul 2, Heat the Soul, and Heat the Soul 5. In B, it's going from 3 to 4. A tier has 6, and S tier has 7. This is likely the exact list anybody that's played these games expected for the Heat the Soul series. But remember, we are just getting started. One way or another, we're going to be taking a look at all the Bleach games, and I know for a fact there's some you have no idea exist. Like, did you know there was a whole ass Bleach JRPG? Because I did not know that. But if there's any game you think I should check out first, Let me know in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, all that great stuff if you want to catch the next part the day it comes out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. It means the world if you made it this far, and yeah, see you guys next time. Till then, everybody.